Hi, this is Simon Phillips. This is I Love Networking. What do you avoid when you're networking? You're not allowed to name specific people, but just generally, what do you avoid?
I guess it's more to do with avoiding not doing something. So the preparation is really, really important. And if you don't prepare, you'll not get what you need to get out of an networking event. So that's a kind of a bizarre way of turning something that was a negative into something that's actually quite positive.
What do I avoid? Oh, crumbs. Boring people. I try and avoid boring other people. I make the most of asking questions of people.
Okay.
So it's not so much a question of what do I avoid as what do I try and do most. And I try and encourage other people to come out. Really.
What do I avoid? Good question. I guess the guys that come around bearing the card right in front of them, saying buy me, buy me, buy me. I think lots of people come to networking in order to sell their business, sell their product, sell their service. But probably very few of the people who are there are actually there to buy that product or service, but they may know people who need it.
Yeah.
So if they're just selling, it's not going to work. If they're there to tell me about what they do in a way that enables me to learn about them and pass that on to the people I know who might be interested in what they're doing, that's going to work.
What I avoid most is selling. I'm a pretty bad salesman anyway. So what I avoid doing is trying to sell when I'm networking. Sometimes people have to actually persuade me to sell to them.
I would think the only thing that sort of undoes the networking thing is someone who only ever speaks about themselves. Now, as a listener, I'm always very interested to hear that, but it doesn't facilitate a two-way exchange. Yeah. And so that seems to me after a little bit, they're probably going to dry up. And
in that breath, you can go somewhere else.
Exactly.
I think an image for a lot of people when they first hear about networking is the networking dance. And that's where two people spy each other across a crowded room, and then one asks the other that age-old question, the only question anyone ever asks at a networking event: what do you do? Which is the networking equivalent of do you come here often? There's no interest, they don't care, they're just breaking the ice.
Yeah.
So that's the opening of the networking dance, and in return comes the elevator pitch, the 30 seconds or a minute of carefully crafted, beautifully rehearsed packaging around what you do, just so you can get this person to buy from you even though they're not really interested.
Yeah.
And the person who's listening is just thinking, when are you going to finish?
Because they want to give you that.
They want to say, and what do you do? And, give you theirs. And you trade these elevator pitches, shake hands, exchange business cards, and go your separate ways. And you could approach anyone like that straight after and say, that person you just spoke to, what do they do for a living? They wouldn't have a clue because they weren't listening. What's their name? They didn't even pick that up. So that would be my number one.
I've ended up developing techniques to try to discourage people from networking for the sake of it, because I just don't have the capacity to do that. So one of the things I often say to people is, could you tell me exactly what you want to talk about so I know which of my colleagues that I might also bring to the meeting, so that if something comes out of it, it might go somewhere. And what I find interesting is that probably about half to 2/3 of people who contact me saying they want to meet, if I just say to them why, that's it, that's the end of the conversation.
What do I avoid from a networking point of view? I would like to say I avoid eating too much, but that's not true because I've just had some nibbles upstairs. I'd like to say I avoid drinking too much, but that's not true because I know Simon George. So, clearly that's not true. I don't know what I avoid. I probably over-prescriptive networking groups just aren't my style. I think they have a valuable place, and I recommend them to some people, but probably I avoid them. They're probably not my style.